This is Issues, Panenyaya, the program that challenges the status quo on various topical social issues.
Don't forget to also check out at Issues Panenyaya. We are here as we commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we have been on an ongoing campaign to the hashtag Leave No One Behind, and we want to paint the world orange now. We'll hand over the mic to Rejoice Narawunda, because we have a very special guest with us here who is the Canadian ambassador to Zimbabwe.
Yes, we've got the ambassador of Canada to Zimbabwe, Renee Cremonese, on Issues Panenyaya, live from the Harare Gardens. We'd just like to thank our sponsors for today, Justice for Children, IM Swedish Development Partner, Plan International, we've got Ministry of Youth, we've got Junior Council, and of course the Canadian Embassy also stepping in. Welcome to Issues Panenyaya.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to have a chat with you today.
Most importantly, welcome to Zimbabwe. I'm aware that you've recently just come into the country. How long have you been?
Well, as of yesterday, it was 2 months. So it's been a little more action-packed than I might have expected. But I've enjoyed it, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm looking very much forward to more events like these, and to being able to get out of Harare to see more of the country.
Absolutely. There's a lot happening in the country that will probably speak to the issues that we are talking about today. There's something that you mentioned when you were making your keynote speech, and you mentioned about the girls and women in your own family. I'd just like to touch a little bit on that, because it's no different from the issues that our own girls and women go through on a day-to-day basis. Would you like to just recap?
Well, sure. Then let me give it a bit of context as well. I was before I came here, I was High Commissioner in Cameroon for 3 years. And what I found often is that when I was talking about these issues, the importance of gender equality and women's empowerment, I met a number of people who kept saying, but Canada's a developed country. And obviously, it's easier for you to do that. You have the ability to do these things, and these problems don't exist in Canada. And I have to always correct them, because these are problems and issues that exist worldwide. So no one should think that just because Zimbabwe has the problem that it's unique to Zimbabwe. It's a larger issue. And I used my family experience as an example of some elements of it. And as I said in my speech, I know my mother was not allowed to go to high school because her parents felt that it was a waste of their money, that she would just get married, and why did she need to become anything more than a housewife? Didn't matter what her dreams and her aspirations were, that was the prevailing sentiment. And she became a widow. She was in fact a widow twice during her life, and the second time with my father, she was struggling to find a way to make ends meet, and she couldn't do that because the norms of the time didn't allow her to go to a bank and get a loan, didn't allow her to be a businesswoman. And she was an excellent businesswoman. She ran a hotel, a resort. She was a real estate agent. Anything she needed to do to put food on the table, she managed to do and overcame those obstacles.
And we had pretty much the same experiences in Zimbabwe until the Legal Age of Majority Act came into play. How then does that make women's agency an important factor in today's life, do you think?
Well, I think there are obstacles, and you need governments, and you need people to try and pass laws that make sense to make for the big change. But you also need to take power into your own hands as an individual, and through organizations like Girls Legacy, who's invited me here today, to push for the change on an individual basis, a family basis, and a community basis, to make sure that things go ahead. And every time you save one girl from an earlier forced marriage, or you change the attitudes of someone in a community, here it might be a traditional leader or others, one step at a time is also critical to making the larger societal changes.
We see that we live in a world that is run by males predominantly, and we see that the youth, girls and women are absent in a way from the systems that matter, which make patriarchy really the reigning power. What is your view on that from a male perspective?
Well, I think it's critical for men to be supportive of women, to make sure that they, as I've said, have the same ability to see their aspirations and their dreams be fulfilled. They have to have those same opportunities. You shouldn't, in my view, have a situation where boys are favored over girls in a particular family. And as I noted when we talked in the speech earlier to the girls, I wear a he for she initiative button, and the reason for that is very much that I want my daughter and my son, I have one of each, as they would say. I want each of them to have the same opportunities and the same ability. And I also want to raise a son who is there to be supportive of his sister and his mother and anyone else that he meets. I think it's critical for those issues to be changed. And I think it goes beyond the issue of whether it's just or right. It also makes my life richer to know that the women around me and the women in my society can contribute and have the ability to fulfill their dreams.
You sound very passionate about girls and women's issues. What are the key areas or the anchor areas that the embassy or Canada as a country is working with the CSOs in this country on?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is that the recent change in our international assistance policy was done as a means of making sure that women's empowerment and women's issues are factored into every development project that we do. And in fact, we've announced the Feminist International Assistance Policy. So that's one element of what's critical for Canada. So that means we were looking at projects to educate and prevent violence against women. We do that here in Zimbabwe through the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, working with civil society organizations. Early enforced marriage, another issue. I don't know Zimbabwe well enough yet to know all of the issues that might be pertinent here, but it included things in my past postings of women's property rights, women who toil in the fields and make up 50, 60, 70, 80% of the workers, but don't benefit from it. They can't, as in the case of my mother, they can't own a business, they can't own land. Those are the kinds of issues that are critical, I think, for Canada. And I'm looking forward to my 3 years here to work in those areas to the extent that we can.
Absolutely, and for us as key issues, Paninyaya, that is a key issue, because you will find that 70% of women in Africa are producing agriculturally, but less than 1% of us as women own any land. So it's not just in Canada, it's right here in Africa as well. My last question before we let you go is, what are the key messages that you'd like to leave for our listeners today before you go?
Well, to repeat, I think the key message is that this issue, the issue of how to make sure that women and girls are seen as equal and have equal opportunities. I think it goes beyond, as I said, something which is just the right thing to do. I think you have to see it from the perspective that societies which allow for that equality are more prosperous, that the community spirit and engagement is more robust. All things are better when you have that sense of equality and inclusion in a society. So I don't think people should view it just from a legal point of view. I can point to international instruments, International Human Rights Day is coming up, that speak to those issues. But you need to go beyond that pure legalistic one and see that there's a value in that equality that is there for your entire society, and that's where your focus needs to be. And I think the focus of men as well need to see that. I think that's very critical.
Thank you very much, Ambassador of Canada to Zimbabwe, Rene Cremonese. And he's saying he's here as a he for she. My name is Rejoice Naraunda Makawa on Issues Paninyaya